'Tis passing strange, yet I declare such statements cause me mirth. For our demands most modest are, we only want the earth. The motherets, the timorous cry, who dread the tyrant's thunder. You ask too much, and people fly from you aghast in wonder. 'Tis passing strange, yet I declare such statements cause me mirth. For our demands most moderate are, we only want the earth. Our masters all godly crew, whose hearts throb for the poor. Their sympathy assure us too, if our demands were fewer. Most generous souls, but please observe, what they enjoy from birth is all we ever had the nerve to ask, that is the earth. The labor faker, full of girls, such doctrine ever teaches. And whilst he bleeds the rank and file, tame moderation teaches. Yet his despite will see the day when wits are in its girth. Labor shall march in war array to seize its own earth. Labor long with groans and tears till its oppressor smell, but never yet to aught save fears did ear of tyrant smell. We need not kneel, our cause is high, of true men there's no dearth, and our victorious rally and cry shall be, we want the earth.
And we are a go. Salvete. Vos salvete. Hello indeed, everyone. I'm John Coleman from Abuctus Diocesan Institute for the Humanities and Alternative College and High School here on New Milford, Connecticut, USA. We're getting settled in here for a brief presentation, but a worthy one, please God. And that is, for whom do we labor? And in this, we're going to orient ourselves on the four principles and the four communities whom Apocalypse Stacy serves. And then we're going to develop that a little bit. So here we are. The summer holiday in these United States is wearing thin. But that does not mean the summer is wearing thin. I've always resented that. People are willing to write the obituary of summer in August and September. Well, before we get into all that good stuff, you must have your relaxing music. So we shall. There you go. Okay, get relaxed, all right? There you go. Okay, so here we are, and the summer holiday is winding down, though beautiful summer continues for quite a while yet. All right, so for you ladies, that's the end of wearing white. That's what the fashionistas tell us. And then, at least for me, I don't know if any men wear ties anymore, but the tie will be coming back with the jacket, which is actually on my chair. In fact, soon it will be on my shoulders. We'll be back to the suit and tie and all this, because we'll be back to the classroom. I should say, before we get too long in the tooth, the opening song was entitled Be Moderate, and it was sung by Matt Callahan and Yvette Moore. and they set to music a number of labor songs from the IWW, and that particular piece is written by James Connolly, most famous as an Irish insurgent in 1916, but actually spent most of his career organizing for the international workers of the world. And he wrote that piece, Be Moderate, or sometimes it's entitled We Only Want the World, as he was organizing here in these United States in New York State. He lived in Troy, New York, and of course did a lot of organizing in New York City proper, and then went back to Ireland and got involved in the events there. So that song is entitled Be Moderate, and it is very much tongue-in-cheek. I encourage you, as we set out on this brief presentation, to review the lyrics of James Connolly's song, poem, Be Moderate, or We Only Want the World. All right. So, Buckus to Stacey's is about to, along with our staff and students, dive hell for leather into our autumn semester, and we need to orient ourselves properly indeed. And I'm always reminded of the anecdote from the life of Saint Bernard of Clairvaux. And as one knows, if they're at least superficially acquainted with monastic literature, whenever anyone tries to go into a monastery and whip people into shape and tell them to stop eating so much and get back to praying and all this sort of thing, the other monks don't appreciate it, and the other nuns don't appreciate it. This is a running motif if you are at all familiar with the monastic tradition. And I'm sure that's true in many religious traditions that have monastic life. And Bernard of Clairvaux was a medieval monk, and in his monastery, he received a lot of flack for his reform efforts. It was Bernard, of course, who started the Cistercian order, which is a branch of the Benedictines. In any case, to our point here in this presentation, Bernard would often recollect himself with the statement, Adque venisti, Bernarde? Adque venisti? Why have you come, Bernard? Why have you come here? Right? Always going back to principles. Priests, religious, married couples, those who are in the single life but have made a committed vow, are well advised to constantly go back to their ordination day, their first profession, their the time they privately made vows, or in the case of a married couple, the time they publicly made vows. And the point is, you bring yourself back, we'll say, to the wedding day, right? Whatever trials and tribulations, sticking with the married example, whatever trials and tribulations you encounter, you orient yourself in the day of your wedding, right? You try to remember. In fact, that's from the Holy Bible. Remember your first love. Remember your first love. Go back to that again and again. Adque venisti, Bernarde? Well, remember back, Bernard, and all of us. Going into the academic semester, let us orient ourselves on our first love, or for our purposes, our principles here. Some men are in love with women. Some men are in love with wine. Other men are in love with the Republic. And here at Buckus to Stacey's, that is what we have thrown ourselves into for all these 12 and 13 years. Our fellows, our society. This is not the time to get into the history of Buckus to Stacey's. But in brief, myself and yourself can look around and see all sorts of problems, social and communal. A lot of that, not everything, a lot of that has to do with the way those problems subsequently in life have to do with disorders from childhood and family rearing, and towards our telos here at Buckus to Stacey's, the way we were instructed to look at the world. So, our little attempt to make things better before we're through, exit stage right, our little attempt here at Buckus to Stacey's is principally in the classroom and beyond to improve society through the way we acquire knowledge. Everyone moans and groans about lots of problems, So many problems, so many hours and cups of coffee taken up with this. Who is doing anything about it? Well, actually, a lot of people, and please God, some of those people are here in Connecticut, and our dear staff and students farther afield are joined certainly and completely to this work, though they not find themselves in holy Connecticut. The way we perceive knowledge, this is called epistemology, if you want to get technical. The way we perceive knowledge has a lot to do with these particular problems in society that we see in later life. So that is our telos, and that is our first love, is the republic, by which we mean not a political configuration, but simply a portmanteau for our community. When I say the republic, I mean our community, our neighbors, and so forth. Apokatastasis has 4 communities whom we serve. This falls in a hierarchy, and from top to bottom, from first to last, although last is not least, the first community whom we serve, we must always keep this in mind as we set out in the classroom and beyond this semester, are the dead generations past, by which we mean our grandsires, the scholars, in particular towards education, the scholars who have left us. It is our honor in the classroom, through telephonic media, in books. It is our honor to carry on their work. To use the old expression, we stand on the shoulders of giants. And it is our honor to give the dead generations past a voice. When one fundamentally strips back what is education in general and formal education, it is the handing down of the knowledge of one generation to the next. So part of the community has knowledge. The ones who are coming up do not have that knowledge. That needs to be transferred. If that is not transferred, there is a breakdown. If that is a complete breakdown, if that transferal completely stops in one generation, you go from whatever is called progress to the Stone Age, to the caveman days. So in the biggest, pull back the slide on the microscope, the biggest thing that all schools are concerned about is the transmission of knowledge from one generation to the next. It's a separate discussion, but that was severely disrupted in the last century, not the least of which had to do with military conflicts, had to do with a lot of social changes, and philosophical changes altogether. It's a very, very big discussion. But by mid-20th century, you can find people at that time in the 1950s and 60s blowing the whistle that there had been a breakdown in the more or less seamless transmission of culture up until that point. And a lot of curiosities in our day and age have to do with the disruptions from the previous century. That's a very interesting topic, but does not completely concern us. What concerns us is that our primary community, whom we honor, are the dead generations past. And that is not just a sentimental concept, sentiment being emotions without actions. That also applies primarily to our telos apokatastasis, to the instruction in the classroom. I'm going to be very blunt here, a lot of time in the classroom and a lot of our school days are total waste, and they're a mockery of what dares call itself academia and the life of the mind. That's due to all sorts of reasons. But the point is, we want to honor our scholars. We benefit from our dead authors, our dead scholars so much. We do not want to mock their legacy. There are men who have given their entire lives to even finding the knowledge in one paragraph, putting their entire life into a book. Are we such cravens that we dishonor them? Now, part of that dishonor, please God, that we fight it and have fought it all these 12 and 13 years at apokatastasis, is the utilitarian bastardization of what calls itself education. This idea that one is instructed for a job. And this is, at least to their credit, This is said publicly in the public schools. After all, the word public means commerce. So I commend the public schools for being honest and saying that the purpose of their work is to produce commercial people, produce people that can get a job. Shame on other communities that dare call themselves educational, much less alternative education. All these rebels that pretend they're fighting the system and they're producing something else. I'll bite my tongue as to what those groups are. But shame on them, because they don't say out loud their telos. They verb mediocrity, but they say many highfalutin, nice philosophical, pedagogical things. We must not do that. We must not, publicly or privately, quietly or openly, let us not go in for the utilitarian lie, the utilitarian bastardization. We are here for knowledge. We are here to honor the dead generations past, to give the men in the cemetery a voice, and to treat seriously and thoroughly, for its own sake, the knowledge accrued by those grandsires of ours. That's the first generation the first community whom we serve at Apocrystasis. In descending order, we now come to the second community. Again, orienting ourselves as we enter this autumn semester. The second community we serve are teachers. We are here to provide a place where the teaching vocation can come to its full stride. It is very, very much circumscribed, whether the modality be college, public school, private school, homeschool, tutorials, whatever. The mockery and the abuse of labor that attends public school, school teachers in general, from college down to pre-K, is unbelievable. You know, the capitalists in these United States thought they were being very cute 100 years ago by making Labor Day, trying to split off the labor struggle from May 1st, which is the worldwide focus on labor, the worldwide feast of labor. They thought they were being very cute here to put basically a consumerist vacation holiday at the end of the summer vacation to distract people. Well, I am not forgetting the purpose of Labor Day, and you are not forgetting it. And academic work is work. It is not. It's not throwaway. It's not keeping time. Yes. The herd, the canal. That's all they do for the moment, right? They go to school because they're herdsmen. The other canal, the other group, their fellows go to school. That's what pushes the middle class. I will not go off into a whole digression to the psychology of the bourgeois. Very soon, you will see enrollment in schools drop through the floor. Where, as I've been saying, I'm pretty good at calling these sorts of things. As I've been saying, when the change happens to formal education, is going to happen so fast, your head and mine is going to spin. And the bourgeoisie are 5 seconds away from ending what they have turned into a mockery of formal education that opens up all possibilities and all sorts of tribulation that we'll address in some other time. But to our second community, indeed, we serve teachers. It is obnoxious teaching in these United States. We mean to provide a haven where our scholars can be justly compensated, can be justly honored, are not treated as service sector employees. And I'm not knocking the service sector. I've spent most of my life in various capacities, usually cleaning your plates and your toilets and cooking your food after I washed my hands, and hauling oil to friolators and all sorts of things. I am not dissing the service sector at all. In fact, much of my conclusions about the low moral quality of the bourgeoisie come from those experiences, cleaning their toilets and so forth, all those years. It's funny, people like to dump on service sector workers. And yet they all like their lawns mowed. They all like their toilets clean. They all like, after washing your hands, a plate of food. I need to work on the order of these analogies. But in any case, I'm not knocking the service sector, but in no way, shape, or form are scholars, down to your pre-K teacher, as a scholar, are they service sector employees? And they are not to be treated that way. And bourgeois, you shouldn't treat service sector employees like that either. You shouldn't treat service sector employees like service sector employees. But I'll digress. I'll stop my digression on that point. The point is, to our second community, to create a place of honor, just recompense, and a full striding for our staff, and that we have done. You know, I don't talk about this stuff so much front of the house, let's say, but every time I get someone on the interview show, or someone joins our staff for a collaboration or whatever, I'm inundated by emails about why that person, whoever they be, it doesn't matter. Like Tom, Dick, and Harry show up out of nowhere and start texting, and you have no idea what goes on. And yet we will never budge. The teachers and our larger communities will always feel comfortable saying whatever they want and doing whatever they want, and having their vocations come to full stride. So that is our second community. Again, we're orienting ourselves as we enter this autumn semester. The third community we serve are our dear students, be they full-time enrollees, in individual classes, our community of learners through our collaborations, which are growing, thanks be to God, our monthly seminarians, those who come to our open events, and of course, we include our alumni. That relationship continues after they've left their proximate studies here. Yes, indeed, the third community whom we serve are our students, and maintaining indeed the best vocation for their state in life as possible. And that's a very interesting time. You know, the academic space itself, it doesn't matter if you're 80 years old, to put yourself into a class itself is, shows a receptivity to knowledge, in say, but also for our younger students in particular, they're at a very interesting time in their life where the Most High has opened up many, many things in them, spiritually and mentally. And so it's a very receptive time. Apocastasis is not in any sense a confessional school. We have no religious affiliation, but just as an example of this, what the hell do you mean that people are receptive? Most people, if they're to follow a religion, will do that, during their adolescence. They'll make that decision one way or another. That's just one example of a lifelong commitment. Time was, and time still is, outside of the secular West, people get married at a certain window in their life. The reason for that is because the human being at a certain young age is receptive to these deeper commitments, these very profound ways of thinking, deep emotions. I'm thinking about is it Goethe, the Troubles of young Werther, right, from the Romantic period, right? Sturm und Drang, storm and thunder, right? The youth can be full of storm and thunder, can also be full of other emotions and other spiritual qualities of a more positive way. But the point is, youth in particular, we speak of our third community of students whom we serve, and I'm speaking in particular of young people, are at a very, very special time in their life, and it's a great honor to journey with them at that hour of their life. Getting back to some earlier points before we move to our third community whom we serve, just to digress, I said earlier, the whole lot of us look at society and we notice lots of problems. One of the worst problems I see, forget about your politics, your religion, your economics, one of the worst things I see is people, they lose the spark in their eye by mid-20s, mid-30s, and go on and on, right? Every year, I do a history thing at one of the schools around here. So every year, for one day a year, I'm a public school teacher, I guess. But every year, I get to spend the day with the children doing the history stuff. and they're excited, and they have a spark in their eye. And then every year I get in my car and I have to fight their bastard parents not run me over. And that's on a good day. You should see the car line. I'm referring to the car line, the pickup line. And I'm trying to get out of the parking lot, and people honk horns, and they're doing it to each other, and they don't have this. They're gray. I don't mean their hair is gray. That's fine. I'm saying, like, they're dead inside. They're just burned out. What the hell happened between 15 or 13 or whatever, and 30 or 40 or whatever age they are? 50, I don't know. Right? Something happened. So getting back, to our big principles. We want to help the Republic, to use that language. Help our community out. Well, part of that is, how do you preserve that spark in the eye of a student? Well, frankly, a lot of it's choked out during the school years. A lot of that's helped by their gray, dead, soul-dead parents and the community, including their teachers, let's be honest, who have bastardized the sacred, magical space of the classroom for utilitarian capitalistic ends. Right? The child learns to go along and get along. He learns to be as mediocre as his parents during those school years. Please God, we have preserved the magic of the classroom and have kept the stock jobbers and the Gambian men at arm's length, and kept the dead spirit of their parents at arm's length as well, lest they become as gray and mediocre and useless as their fellows. Every school has a social end. Every school, the very word school, is a noun, a school of fish, right? It's a conglomeration, it's a corporation. Every school on this earth, from your pre-Ks all to your master's and doctorate degrees, they all have a social end. We're just honest about it. So, moving on to our fourth community whom we serve and look forward to serving this autumn semester is the general public. And we do that through many public outreaches, including our open events series, where we have just that, open events, open in the sense that they're open to the public, and also without enrollment, but also open in the sense that there's typically no overall theme. So they could be all sorts of topics, and they're pretty much standalone, although we've kind of experimented with little series this summer, like the I Ching, for example, and this autumn in the writings of St. Augustine. So you can keep an eye out for that. But open, typically kind of random standalone seminars. But anyway, the general public in all sorts of ways, including these social media outreaches that we do on BitChute and whatever. So that is something else we do. It strikes me, is the publication work. That's appropriate, especially to our fourth community, the general public. The music stuff that we do, busking Dante in years gone by, our presentation of Dante in the city, and our interview series. All of that falls under the fourth community of general enrichment for the general public. Always in the hope that they will become our third community of enrolled students. But there we go. Those are the four groups we serve. For whom do we labor? The lot of them. For whom do we labor? So I wish to conclude this brief presentation with a few words from a document I wrote earlier this year entitled The Marsher Lords. We are the Marsher Lords, always orienting ourselves through the lonely days, through the busy days, through the days of hardship, the days of derision, the days of apathy that lay ahead for this mighty work. Let us orient ourselves, and those things will be light things. So here is the text. You can read this whole book on our staff publication page written by myself. For whom do we serve? And I read, in any case, back before I learned to put page numbers on the books I published, the good old days, what is our principle and foundation? Because if we do not have principles, we have nothing. We have nothing if we do not have principles. The Institute has been as true as the North Star these 12 going on 13 years, I update, because we have stuck to our principles, come hell or high water. We have been as true as the North Star. And we read in another book I wrote, The Trotsky Train, only when there's stability to society, only when men own their capital, when they memorize the poetry of the land, when local musical compositions and books proliferate, when the churches are packed each morning, standing room only for lauds, and the same twice over for Sunday Mass, then the scholar can take a cigarette break, but only for a minute before he's back at it again. It's your work, it's my work. There is your end to education, there is your wealth, there is your success, I add, there is what we're laboring for. Let us go on, let us dream, let us become besotted with that delirium of the brave, which once and to come have made men and forged nations. We say that when there are no more attorneys on holy Connecticut, when there are no more banks on holy Connecticut, when there are no more ghostwriters on holy Connecticut, and when all the filthy works and pomps and morbidity find no more home here, when there are no more bastard landlords, when these things have been scourged from the land, when that military base in Danbury is closed down, and where there is no longer the United States Corporation's flag flying over Connecticut, when there is not one man in this state and in this nation and in this world who is swindled to give his labor to another in a job, when the money no longer devaluates, when there are no bums on the street, when the churches are unlocked, when the churches are full, when the synagogues are full, when the Arabs, I go on a bit here, hey, bring the Jews in, tell them to stop killing the Arabs, when the Arabs are butchered no more, all right, I gotta behave myself. When we appreciate our culture, when we start making our own art, when we don't pump in art from a continent away, from California or London, then our work will be done for a minute. We will not take a break till then. We have for these 11 years, and 12 and 13 now, forged ahead on these points, keeping our eyes on the principle and foundation laid out all those years ago in that worthy book, The Trotsky Train. That book and that vision have been our constitution these 11 years. We have not wavered from that one iota, come what may. So for all of us, staff and students of Augusta Stacey's, the scholars whom we have the honor of giving a voice to, our general public, our dear general public, which supports us, buys our books, comes to our seminars, and helps us in so many ways, let us keep that in view. Adque venisti, Bernarde, why have you come? Why are we entering this autumn semester? To serve the dead generations past, to instantiate our teaching vocation, to assist our students, whatever their age, and if they're young, to do everything in our power to keep them from becoming grayly and mediocre adults. And to help those gray, I don't mean hair, and mediocre adults remember who they were as children, should they be joining us later on in life. And indeed, to enrich the general public, principally through academic work and other outreaches as well. Those are our communities. The hours and the days and weeks ahead of this semester are very long, and they will be very lonely. And of course, the great plate that our fellows, society members give us, of course, is the plate of apathy, to throw your all into something. And to be received with apathy is just a great little plate, shall we say. I'll just leave it there. But we push ahead with all the yawns and all the shrugs as well. The days and the labor are long and hard, but it is a light thing when we keep in mind the people we serve. It is a light thing. It is an easy thing. All of the slings and arrows, all of the calumny, all of the apathy, these are easy things for those of us who know our mission. So to the staff and students, to our supporters and the general public, here's to a grand semester coming up, and I'll see you in class. Valete.